The reason you run simulations is because you don't know. And if we posit that God is an all-knowing, omniscient being, it renders nugatory, or it sort of nullifies the need for a simulation. Hey folks, welcome to the channel, Thinking Theology. I'm Don. Today I'm taking a look at Elon Musk's views on God, at least in this brief interview. And we're constrained by time on YouTube and such, so I like to get shorter ones when I can. But I don't know this one. I haven't seen it. I just decided, let's see what Elon's got to say. I'm not sure if he believes in God or not. Either way, I don't care. I just like to hear his ideas, and then I share some of mine. So let's see what the one and only Elon Musk has to say. Oh, a Lex Fridman podcast? I don't know who that is.
If we go to the big questions once again, you said you're with Einstein, that you believe in the God of Spinoza.
Yes.
So that's a view that God is like the universe and reveals himself through the laws of physics, or as Einstein said, through the lawful harmony of the world.
Yeah, I would agree that
I just did one. I just had one on this, and this was Richard Dawkins and Brian Greene talking at the 92nd Street Y about this very thing. Fascinating.
God, the simulator, or whatever, the supreme being or beings, reveal themselves through the physics. They're creators of this existence, and it's incumbent upon us to try to understand more about this wondrous creation.
Like, who created this thing? Who's running this thing? Like, embodying it into a singular question with a sexy word on top of it is like focusing the mind to understand. It does seem like there's again, it could be an illusion. It seemed like there's a purpose, that there's an underlying master plan of some kind. And it seems like
there may not be a master plan in the sense. So there's maybe an interesting answer to the question of determinism versus free will is that if we are in a simulation, the reason that these higher beings would hold a simulation is to see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not they don't know what happens.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they wouldn't hold the simulation.
Mm-hmm.
So when humans create a simulation, so at SpaceX and Tesla, we create simulations all the time. Especially for the rocket, you have to run a lot of simulations to understand what's going to happen, because you can't really test the rocket until it goes to space, and you want it to work. So you have to simulate subsonic, transonic, supersonic, hypersonic ascent, and then coming back, super high heating and orbital dynamics. All this is going to be simulated. So because you don't get very many kicks at the can. But we run the simulations to see what happens. Not if we knew what happens, we wouldn't run the simulation.
Mm-hmm.
So so whoever created this existence they're running it because they don't know what's going to happen, not because they do.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I've read some things as well on the nation, sort of the notion of simulations. And when I was at Rutgers, and I was a philosophy major and a criminal justice major, but in philosophy, you'd study are we a brain in a vat? Descartes, I think, therefore I am. Like and these existential questions that we've got. And that's where even one of my professors, Tim Maudlin at the time, it was in philosophy of science. He himself was an atheist, but he had no problem talking about theological topics and such. And he didn't believe that there was a God. He believed evolution, was a solid case for it and so on. And a very bright man. And he said that he believed that theology, some of the deepest ideas in philosophy come from theology. And I thought that is so fair-minded of someone who doesn't believe in God to say, but I love talking about this stuff because it makes me think in different ways. Maybe I'm missing something, and maybe it's going to add to me and my enjoyment of life to contemplate various things. The idea that we're a brain in a vat, or that there's another possibility is that we're in a simulation. Like, Elon gave his own examples at SpaceX, where they run all these different computer models and such. But we run simulations all the time. We run tests on lab animals, lab rats, mice, bacteria, fruit flies, all the time, because we want to know, if we do this, what might happen? What does it look like? How do these beings react to the introduction of a foreign substance into their bodies? Or bacteria is another one. We check bacteria all the time COVID-19 in Wuhan, did it emanate from a lab? And my sense is yes. I have no way of knowing guaranteed wise, but all that said, we run these things because we don't know the outcome. So even Elon said, look, if there are these supernatural beings controlling things, and we're in a simulation, we humans are in a simulation, one of millions that might be run out there, where maybe in another simulation, Hitler loses the election. He doesn't get elected. He's a man, he's alive, but he loses, and somebody else wins that. Or it's always the example. Hitler wins the war. U.S. doesn't win. The Allied forces lose. The Axis powers win. Mussolini and Hirohito and these guys, they win. What does the world look like? Run all different. Penicillin is invented in the early discovered in the early 1900s versus it never being discovered. What does that simulation look like? The reason you run simulations is because you don't know. And if we posit that God is an all-knowing, omniscient being, it renders nugatory, or it sort of nullifies the need for a simulation. So these are very interesting thoughts, and I love that he brought that up. Even just in any video, one way of thinking can impact your overall way of thinking. Not necessarily overthrow it, but it could colorize it. It could give you a new basis for thinking certain things that you may borrow from down the line, or you may use every day as part of your structural psyche, if you will. So anyway, folks, leave your comments. Please subscribe and like if you've made it this far. That'd be fantastic. It'd help move things along, and maybe we can have more civil discourse. I'm sure we can. So that's it. Have a great day. See you on another video, and keep thinking theology.